Good morning. Please stand as you're willing. Join me for "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple" number 16. We're going to sing it through twice. "'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to break, 'tis a gift to come down where we want to be, and when we find ourselves in the place just right, to be in the valley of love and light. Light grows simplicity and faith, to guide and to walk each hand in a shape, to burn and burn, will be our light from that day when we become round right. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we want to be, and when we find ourselves in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. Light through simplicity and faith, to power to reach and be a gift, to turn and burn, and be our delight till by turn we come round right.
Good morning. Welcome everyone to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where we join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or, as we say, short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. We begin, as we do each Sunday, by welcoming all that you come with today, all of your uniqueness, your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, all that helps make you who you are is welcome here today. And that includes those who hear me say this each Sunday, as well as those who might be joining us more recently or even for the first time today. You're all equally as welcome. So thanks for being here. Thanks to those of you who are live streaming with us as well. It's always great to know that so many of you are with us. So welcome to one and all to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane. And let's see, I don't have any announcements to make, so why don't we take a couple of extra minutes to greet one another. Please say hello to those that you look forward to seeing each Sunday, and if you see a newer face, say hello to them as well. If you are a newer face, don't be too shy. I don't see any of the biters in the church this morning, so you should be safe. Wow, really needed to break up that party. You guys are having fun. But fortunately, you can continue the conversation during our social hour following the service. So please stick around for that if you're visiting us for the first time. The coffee and tea is right behind that wall. We don't mean to hide it from you. Just want you to know that it's there. So please stick around after the service. But we are going to move forward now by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our faith, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
Our opening reflection today is from a book called The Scout Mindset: Why Some People See Things Clearly and Others Don't by Julia Galeff. The scout is not indifferent. A scout might hope to learn that the path is safe, that the other side is weak, or that there's a bridge conveniently located where his forces need to cross the river. But above all, he wants to learn what's really there, not fool himself into drawing a bridge on his map where there isn't one in real life. Being in scout mindset means wanting your map, your perception of yourself and the world, to be as accurate as possible. Of course, all maps are imperfect simplifications of reality, as a scout well knows. Striving for an accurate map means being aware of the limits of your understanding, keeping track of the regions of your map that are especially sketchy or possibly wrong. And it means always being open to changing your mind in response to new information. In scout mindset, there's no such thing as a threat to your beliefs. If you find out you were wrong about something, great. You've improved your map, and that can only help you.
Please stand as you're willing and able and join me in this book, Lean on Me, number 1021. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there is always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on forward. It won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride in my emptiness. You need to follow forward. No one can fill those of your needs that you won't let go. Lean on me when you're not wrong, and I'll be your friend. I'll love you carry on forward. It won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. There is a love lean on me. When I need someone, I wanna be my friend. I love you, carry on forward. It will be long. I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just know I'll be brother when you need a man. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on, lean on, lean on. Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are now going to kindle our candle of care of those who are most in our hearts and minds this morning, and begin as we have been on behalf of the people of Ukraine who are suffering the impact of war there, people in that entire region who are suffering the impacts of war. We also want to kindle a candle for the people in Maui and other places around the world that are suffering the devastation of fires and loss of life and homes, property in so many ways. I also want to kindle a candle this morning in memory of my dear friend, Reverend Dr. Finley Campbell. For those who remember Finley, he spoke here at the church about 6 months ago, the founder of UMIAC, the UU, or Unitarian Universalist Multiracial Unity Action Committee. Uh, he was an incredible individual. I won't eulogize him here, but in addition to all that he did in the world, he referred to me as little brother, and I referred to him as big brother, and I miss my big brother. So let's take a moment of silence on behalf of others that you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. Now, you probably noticed in your order of service, there's a special collections envelope. This is something we generally do once a month on the third Sunday, but we're doing it again today on behalf of some people in our own area who have been impacted by the devastating fires that took place just last weekend. And we're going to make this contribution. This contribution will go to the Red Cross so that it will go directly to support their work with those individuals who lost their homes and suffered other consequences of those fires. So if this is something that you want to contribute to, and I'm sure many of you will, do put it in the special collection envelope, whether it's cash or a check or something like that. And you don't need to worry about sealing this. We will recycle or reuse the envelope afterwards if we can. If you are live streaming with us and you'd like to contribute, you can simply go to our church website and contribute and just put something in the memo letting us know that it is for today's special collection. So I thank you, as always, for your compassion and your generosity in advance. We now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world.
Well, normally at this time, we invite the teacher to come forward with a story. But today, I've got two special guests because I'm using our time for all ages to announce a new church holiday. Today is Nursery Caregiver Appreciation Day. So you may not see these two young women in church every Sunday, but they are here without fail every Sunday in the nursery, taking care of the youngest members of our community. This is Emma and Bella Hernandez, and we are today just appreciating them for all of the amazing care that they provide to our babies in the nursery. Emma graduated from Lewis and Clark High School in 2022 and is going into her second year at Whitworth as an education major. She's also going to be an RA in Duval Hall. And her sister Bella graduated just this past year from LC and will be joining Emma at Whitworth, exploring a potential degree in music, business, education. It's the fun thing about being an undecided freshman. The world is your oyster. They, in addition to providing care for our kids and loving working with kids, they also both enjoy music. And Emma is an accomplished musician. Guitar, clarinet, saxophone. Yeah. And Bella has performed in many choirs as a vocalist. So I'm going to let them share just a little bit about what it's been like to grow up in our church and now take care of little ones.
Hello. Thank you for, I guess, recognizing us today. We've been going to this church since I was 8 and she was 6, so it's been a while. And this community has always meant so much to us, and yeah, it's just always been that like support for our family in a lot of times of need, also just in a lot of enrichment. And it's been really great to work in the nursery and feel like we can give back, and just kind of also nurture the youth of our community, because it's been kind of in decline since we've been younger, and it'd be great to like kind of build that back up. And yeah, it's just been really great. And we really enjoy our time here. But we don't have a lot of babies a lot of times. So if you have anybody who wants to go to this church and is afraid to come maybe because they don't know where to put the little ones, we're always here and we're always available for any help that you need. So thank you. Yeah.
Oh, do you have anything to add? No, because she says everything. So
I
she
know.
does she's not letting me talk, guys. Thank you.
And we're going to take this beautiful flower off of the pulpit now so that they can take care of it in their dorm room. In just a week, you're moving in, right? A dorm flower. Enjoy. Thank you for everything. And now join me in singing our children to nursery with Bella and Emma, or a play club with me.
Lord, how it is, Lord, how it is. May the Spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
As we move into a time of meditation, you're invited to find a comfortable, receptive position. Close your eyes if you wish. Take a few deeper breaths and reflect on this little bit of guidance from a book called Think Again by Adam Grant. It doesn't become the truth just because you believe it. It is a sign of wisdom to avoid believing every thought that enters into your mind, and it is a mark of emotional intelligence to avoid internalizing every feeling that enters your heart.
Things have come to a pass. Our romance is growing fast. For you is the other, while I find it silent. Goodness knows what we will be. Oh, I don't know how to act. It looks as if we two will never be one. Something must be done. You say either, and I say either. You say neither, and I say neither. Neither, either, and neither, neither. Let's call the whole thing off. You like potato, and I like potato. You like tomato, and I like tomato. Potato, potato, tomato, tomato. Let's call the whole thing off. But oh, if we are the whole thing off, then we must part. And oh, if we are the whole that might break my heart. So if you like pajamas and I like pajamas, I'll wear pajamas and give up pajamas. One week, we need the job. So we're ready to call the calling on. Oh, let's call the whole thing off. You say laughter, and I say laughter. You say after, and I say after. Laughter, laughter, after, after. Let's go the whole thing off. And you like vanilla, and I like vanilla. You sarsaparilla, I sarsaparilla. Vanilla, vanilla, chocolate, strawberry. Let's go the whole thing off. But oh, if we go the whole thing off, then we must part. And oh, if we are the ones that might break my heart. So if you go for oysters, then I go for oysters. I'll eat your oysters and cancel your oysters. Oh, we so you let's go.
Thank you both so much. Somebody got their exercise in. I heard it. Was that you? At your steps in? No. We're married, so I can say that. Or so I think I can. But on the other hand, so occasionally when I am feeling down about the world, like the bad guys are winning, I like to watch actor Liam Neeson's Taken movie. It's about a retired CIA agent, Brian Mills, who springs to the rescue of his daughter after she's kidnapped by human traffickers. While on the phone with one of her attackers, Neeson delivers what is his most famous line ever. I'll do my best to impersonate Neeson here because it's such a great line. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you're looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I have acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. If you let my daughter go now, that will be the end of it. I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you. Thank you. Now, talk about spoiler alerts. That line is delivered in the very first few minutes of the film, describes the entire plot and the ending. The movie is a straight line to Neeson's character fulfilling his promise of rescuing his daughter by killing the evilest people you can imagine. So there's no ambiguity at all in this story. There's a good guy, the bad guys who are so vile that we're relieved to watch them go. Now, Hollywood has a couple of tricks to help us walk out of a theater feeling good about having just witnessed the violent deaths of human beings. Both tricks accomplish the same thing by demonizing the villains so we don't have to acknowledge their humanity. They've become monsters that must die in order to benefit humanity, for the sake of humanity. The other trick is to cover their faces with masks or makeup so that we can't see their humanity. I remember watching the recent Captain America movie. My favorite comic book character is a kid who piles up an immense body count by throwing dozens of masked Nazis off of an airplane with the ease of tossing away a wadded piece of paper. Unlike Neeson's film, I found this disregard for human life disturbing and even stopped watching the movie. I wasn't convinced just because they were wearing masks that they weren't human beings. But the same trick is used more effectively and frequently in other movies, horror movies like Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street, as well as other superhero flicks like Batman and the Avengers films, whose villains are often not human to begin with, but jokers and penguins and aliens and demigods. In reality, the difference between right and wrong is seldom so discernible. And people, no matter how much we dislike or disagree with them, are a lot more complicated than Hollywood's masked villains and heartless psychopaths and monsters. 20 years ago, following 9/11, I was hooked on, like a lot of people, two hit television series. 24, about counter-terrorist agent Jack Bauer, played by Kiefer Sutherland, and The Shield, about a group of crooked cops starring Michael Chiklis. What I appreciated about these series is the moral ambiguity that I experienced watching them, the moral ambiguity I experienced internally as an individual. 24 was about a good man who was routinely forced to do bad things, terrible things to protect the country and those that he loved, things that slowly tortured his soul. The Shield was almost the opposite. It was about a group of crooked, violent, and murderous cops who often did good things. Viewers, including myself, could not help but root for them and want them to get away with their crimes. It's like, oh my God, they're about to get caught. I was emotionally conflicted and psychologically confused over these feelings. How could I want such evil men to get away with the things they were doing? I'm guessing it was because we also saw their humanity in the writing and the storytelling, their struggles, their kindness, their loyalty to their friends, their love for their families. And we came to care about them as complicated individuals. So I've begun this way, distinguishing these two types of storytelling to point out that life is much more like 24 in The Shield than Liam Neeson's Taken movies. The difference between right and wrong, whether ideological or moral, is seldom, if ever, easy to determine, especially when we acknowledge the humanity of others, even those we dislike and disagree with. Getting to what is true or right isn't a Hollywood plotline. The ideological choices that we make are at best based upon our best educated guesses. And our moral decisions are usually a choice between the lesser of two evils, the least of which is often difficult for us to determine. That's real life. That's the predicament that we're almost always in a state of ideological uncertainty and moral quandary. Some of us, however, like Liam Neeson's character, go about life as if they are certain of the truth and have absolute clarity about the right thing to do. So they feel justified in disregarding the ideas and ways of others, often dehumanizing them in order to achieve their own ends. This mindset and attitude leads to extremism, which may feel reassuring to its convinced and confident adherents, but leads to much woe and injustice for those who disagree with their extremist positions. Such extremism is also an escape from reality and provides a false sense of security despite its destructive consequences. The unpredicted heat, fires, and boiling oceans that we've experienced this summer are a frightening and present example of just how serious a matter it is when swaths of humanity are incapable of coping with reality and seek to force their insanity upon the rest of us. We could have begun addressing global warming decades ago and prevented the terrible impacts that we're now seeing. We could have stopped that. We talked about it, we wanted to, we tried. But the Republican Party has long refused to face this reality and has prevented the rest of us from doing so in any meaningful ways. And today, even after those apocalyptic fires in Maui, they seem far more interested in prosecuting Hunter Biden than addressing or even mentioning the climate disaster their decades-long ignorance and irresponsibility has led to. They are more concerned about forcing unwanted children into the world than about the welfare of those children who are already here. Today, however, there are extremists on the other side of the ideological spectrum who have re-embraced. By the way, I don't mind the baby dogging. Yeah, she's just agreeing with me. So today there are extremists on the other side of the ideological spectrum who have re-embraced the failed Marxist utopianism of the past, rebranding it as woke or wokeism. In their unconscious state, they ignore the evidence of the past and hate the present, which they are making miserable in order to create a future paradise or utopia that will be far worse than both the past and the present. Yet they pursued this dystopian end with the same extremist certainty as those on the far right, and like them, are willing to dehumanize and destroy anyone who merely raises a hand to question their methods. Like Liam Neeson, they know the plot line of their story. They are the good guys, and those who disagree deserve whatever comes next. But reality requires us to be more like Jack Bauer in 24, conflicted about the difficult decisions that we face, about the inherent dilemma in our moral choices, appropriately humble and uncertain about our own beliefs, and troubled by the negative consequences resulting from our choices, especially by the ways that they impact the lives of others. And as with the characters in The Shield, We must not demonize those we disagree with. No matter how flawed they might be, we must acknowledge their inherent worth and dignity. Unlike Brian Mills, Neeson's character again in Taken, we must question our own assumptions and consider the consequences of our actions. Not let our righteousness mow others down. As my college philosophy professor Wallace Roark says in his little book entitled Think Like an Octopus, the reason behind many bad things that happen in the lives of individuals and society can be expressed in the words of a blundering friend of mine. I just didn't think about that. We have a moral and social as well as a prudential obligation to think about that. Dr. Roark used to say, we must learn to think on the other hand. Hence the name of his book, the title of his book, Think Like an Octopus, right? We must think on the one hand, but on the other 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 hand, and so on, and always considering other possibilities and questioning our own assumptions, our own ideas and beliefs. To demonstrate this, I want to offer two examples of thinking on the other hand. One is an example of an internal dialogue that I had with myself this week, and another is an example of a societal conversation we should be having, but aren't, because we're afraid. The first example involves a local story involving Spokane's mayor, Nadine Woodward, who got a lot of bad press this week, as I'm sure many of you noticed after being photographed on stage while allowing herself to be blessed. There it is right there. She hates it when I talk about her publicly, and she calls in. You're going to lose your tax exemption. Anyway, she was photographed on stage allowing herself to be blessed and prayed for by former Washington State Representative Matt Shea. For those who don't know who Matt Shea is, he's an extremely militant, right-wing Christian pastor who calls for Washington to be divided so the eastern half can become a Christian state. He's been involved in training Christian militia for holy war and authored a manifesto on how its anointed soldiers can take over the country, including having targeted certain organizations and individuals. He's so extreme that his own party kicked him out. When can you remember that happening? After he'd been officially designated as a domestic terrorist. Mayor Woodward is up for re-election. And given the results of the recent primary, her chances of winning are not looking good. Some have thus concluded that she's willing to court Shea in order to win over his supporters. As someone whose church, our Spokane congregation, and who has personally been included on Shea's list of targets, I, more than many, have a right to feel disgust and betrayal over the mayor's association with this madman. But on the other hand, I have often imagined having an opportunity to meet with Matt Shea and to ask him why I'm on his list. My purpose would be to help him see my humanity and perhaps consider that others on his list might be just as human. Perhaps he would ask if he could pray for me during such an encounter. And I'd say yes, out of respect for his religion and appreciation for the gesture. Maybe someone would take a picture of him praying for me. And maybe some who disagree with me about other issues would use it publicly to condemn me by associating me with the far right, which some have already done or attempted to do. But on the other hand, Mayor Woodward is a politician running for re-election, and her decision to meet with Shea wasn't to create mutual understanding, some say, but to appeal to those who agree with him so she can get every vote she can. As her opponent, Lisa Brown's campaign says, Shea and his supporters' dangerous rhetoric against members of the LGBTQ plus community and view on reproductive rights and many other issues are wrong for Spokane. Mayor Woodward's poor judgment in joining them is inexcusable. Statements like this make Woodward's actions hard to defend. But on the other hand, guilt by association is a logical fallacy and one of the oldest political ploys in the book. The GOP's obsession with Hunter Biden to discredit his father is a case in point. And the statement by Lisa Brown's campaign came in the form of a mass text less than 48 hours after the story broke, and it concluded by making a pitch to vote for Brown and to join her campaign. It also seems only fair that we should take Woodward's own statement on the matter into account. I am deeply disturbed that Matt Shea chose to politicize a gathering of thousands of citizens who joined together yesterday to pray for fire victims and first responders. Woodward says, I attended the event with only one purpose in mind, and that was to join with fellow citizens to begin the healing process. But on the other hand, as columnist Sean Vestal wrote of the matter, Woodward chose to go up on that stage with Shea, and she stood rapt as he was praying, eyes closed, hands open towards heaven, his hand on her shoulder, smiling and nodding, and she never betrayed a hint of discomfort with any of it, right up to the hug she gave Shea at the end. Yeah, you'd think that would settle it, but on the other hand, I'm a hugger. And if Matt Shea and I ever had the kind of positive encounter I hope for, no matter how much I might continue to disagree with him, I would probably hug him too. As the Unitarian saying goes, we need not think alike to love alike. It is possible for me to love people I disagree with. If I can root for the bad guys on a TV show, surely I can embrace the humanity of those I disagree with in real life. So this back and forth process is usual for me, having been trained in philosophy. So I still can't tell you where I'm actually at on this particular matter. Maybe I'll never be any place solidly. What I can tell you is that my conclusions about it are held tepidly and with humility, tempered by my commitment, no matter what I think, to always consider the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The other example regards a topic I don't know enough about to form a complete opinion on yet, or let's say a comfortable opinion on yet. It will never be complete, which is probably why I've not spoken about it before now. I'm talking about the disagreement in our larger society over certain transgender issues, particularly providing certain kinds of medical treatment to children and teenagers, and the question over whether a trans woman is a real woman, whatever that term real means. On the one hand, I have more than one colleague who has a transgender daughter, a child who was born biologically male but identifies as female. They have been supportive of their child's identity from the start by immediately referring to them by the pronouns and names they prefer, sought professional advice, and allowed gender affirming medical interventions while they were still minors. And their children are now adults and live as trans women. On the other hand, as parents, they have serious concerns about giving medical treatment that might have permanent effects and potentially negative effects to their kids who were still maturing and still figuring themselves out. What if they later changed their minds, as some have, and wanted to detransition, but couldn't fully do so because of the lasting impacts from so-called puberty blockers and surgeries? But on the other hand, they were told by the professionals that trans kids who feel unsupported are prone to suicide, and not treating them risk their lives, a potentiality that would frighten any loving parent. But on the other hand, is a parent or primary caregiver unsupportive and unloving simply for saying no? Not now? Let's figure this out together. I've known of many non-binary teenagers who were utterly rejected by their families, particularly in the past. Many of whom were forced to leave home, maybe end up on the streets at a very early age. And that kind of cruelty and rejection of one's very being by the people who are supposed to love them and care for them most can certainly lead a child or anyone else into some very dark places. But is a parent who wants to support their kids and is doing their best to figure out how best to do so, but isn't quite sure what this means, automatically unsupportive and uncaring? Then there's the question of whether a trans woman is a real woman. On the one hand, I have dear friends who are trans women, and I couldn't possibly relate to them as anything but women. They are as healthy, mature, functional, and wise as anyone I know, even more so in some cases. I relate to them as women because that is how they present themselves, and it would feel unnatural for me to see them in any other way. Thank you for that. Amen. On the other hand, there are differences between someone who is biologically male or female and someone who is transgender. These differences are literally played out when trans women are, in many cases, allowed to compete in women's sports. Is it fair to allow those who have retained some of the physical abilities of having been born biologically male to compete against biological females? That's a question. I appreciate your opinion on that, especially when the results often show that they are able to leverage those abilities to overwhelming advantage. On the other hand, gender is just a cultural invention and isn't rooted in any kind of specific or physical reality, or so some have argued. But on the other hand, what of biological women who have fought for equal rights, equal opportunities, and equal recognition for centuries? Women whom, after making, I should say, great strides, are again being told by some that the only difference is that they're able to get pregnant, reducing their gender to the significance of a petri dish or incubator. But on the other hand, there are many ways to be maternal. And there are biological females who have chosen or are unable to give birth to children. Does that make them any less female? Any less a woman? But on the other hand, almost every species demonstrates behaviors that are exclusively male or female. When a peacock spreads its feathers to impress the females, and when the females are impressed, are they simply demonstrating cultural stereotypes? Is the instinct among gorillas to follow the most powerful male silverback genetic or merely a cultural stereotype? Surely these behaviors are biological, not cultural. What are the innate behavioral differences between human males and females, and which behaviors are merely cultural? Wouldn't that be a fascinating study? Wouldn't it be great if somebody could figure that out, if we could have the conversation so that we could figure that out? That would be beneficial. But we're not able to ask. We're not able to talk about it. It's not safe, it's harmful. Get canceled. So this is a rabbit hole I'm not going to go any deeper down now, but my point in raising it today is because it is an incredibly divisive issue in today's society, yet anyone who raises these questions are afraid of getting in big trouble, right? Perhaps being attacked on social media, called transphobic, losing their jobs, or having their reputations destroyed, just for asking the question. And this is so because the issue is being treated like Liam Neeson's movie, in which the plot is announced at the beginning and headed for in a straight line, no questions asked. This is similar to many of today's most pressing issues. Too many of us are unwilling to question ourselves, let alone allow others to question us. So we are divided on ideological lines. Instead of learning and growing through genuine dialogue, we hold to the pre-written plot line, demonizing those we disagree with, the bad guys in the process. If you disagree with me, you're the bad guy. And you're not human, and you don't deserve to work, and you don't deserve to be told the truth about, and you don't deserve to have a good reputation in the community. Just let them try that with me, which they have. To truly come to understand each other, and consequently to truly come to care about each other, because that's what understanding someone allows, is to care, and to grow and to progress together as individuals and as a society, we need to be allowed to genuinely converse and ask meaningful questions. It means questioning ourselves. It means thinking on the one hand, but on the other hand, but on the other hand, but on the other hand, and so on and so on. That is how society and the world together will solve our problems and overcome our challenges. It's how we will grow as individuals, and it is the only way that we will truly come to love one another. It is the only way that we can love one another, to understand each other. But on the other hand, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please stand as you're willing and able. We're going to sing the last hymn together, number 301, Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky. Verses 1, 3, and 5. Touch the earth, reach the sky, walk on shores where spirits fly, over the ocean, over the land, our faith and quest to understand. Touch the earth, reach the sky, all our water, all shall die. Now is the time left in between to follow the star to build a dream. Touch the earth, reach the sky, soar with courage and pride. Spirits rolling as we fly to touch the earth, to reach the sky.
Our benediction today is from British philosopher Bertrand Russell. In all affairs, it is a healthy thing now and then to hang a question mark on the things you have long taken for granted. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.
Shalom.